You can stand through any trial if you're standing with God. Previous presidential candidate, host of the TV show Huckabee, Mike Huckabee is also a Fox News contributor, a New York Times bestselling author of 12 books, and a frequent speaker for corporate, civic, and nonprofit groups all over the world. He was the 44th governor of Arkansas from 1996 until 2007, becoming one of the longest-serving governors in the state's history. He ran in 2008 and 2016 for President of the United States, finishing second in the Republican primary in 2008. His love for our country and God is unwavering. This is his story. This is Today's Nashville. This is Faith. Governor Huckabee, what a blessing, an honor to have you on Today's Nashville. This is Faith. I have been wanting to have you on my show forever.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to get to visit with you, and I'm looking forward to it.
You know, I went back and started looking at your history. Pastor, Lieutenant Governor, Governor of Arkansas, presidential candidate, not once, but twice, Fox contributor, television host, husband, father, and fur baby daddy.
Yes, indeed.
And grandfather.
All of the above. You look at that resume and you think, this guy just couldn't keep a job. You know, what a job jumper. I've been all over the place. But it's been a great life. You know, I feel like God has given me a life that is truly an American dream, and I've enjoyed it. And every stage of my life and career have been chapters that I can see God's hand in developing, opening, and then closing and opening something different.
Well, I want to take you back from the very beginning to Arkansas. Can you share what it was like growing up, your family, your parents?
I grew up in a little town called Hope, Arkansas, that no one
had
had ever heard of.
I love the name Hope.
It's a great town, and it was like Mayberry. No one locked their doors. Everybody knew everyone. It was a small town. You know, born in the mid-50s at a time when America was sort of optimistic and everybody was thinking that things are good, and they were. I grew up in a family that, you know, just working class. And, you know, we were poor, but we didn't think we were that poor because so many other people were too. But, you know, I'm the first male in my entire family lineage to ever graduate high school. My father, grandfather, not a single male upstream from me had ever gotten out of high school. So I did not grow up with this thought of one day he'll go to Harvard. You know, if I got out of high school, I would have done something no one else had ever done.
Were you a good student?
I was a good student, and, you know, I clowned around a lot. I'm sure that will shock people to find that out. But no, I was an excellent student. I started reading almost intently when I was in the second grade, and I would read biographies, and I would particularly focus on reading encyclopedias. I read the newspaper, watched the TV news as a little kid. Most kids didn't do that. So I had an interest in the world around me and what was going on in it. But it wasn't because that was something that was common to my family. My dad was a firefighter. On his days off, he was a mechanic. You know, I tell the story that my father was one of those guys, like a lot of hardworking Americans, stood on his feet on concrete floors all day, came home bone tired. You know, he knew just heavy lifting and hard work, had just the grime of a hard day's work on his hands, never could scrub it off. I like to say we grew up, the only soap we had in our house was lava soap. I was in college before I found out it isn't supposed to hurt when you take a shower. But when you have lava soap, you find that, you know, it's like scrubbing off. But I grew up in a wonderful home in the sense that, you know, even though my parents didn't have a lot to give me, that forced me to have to work from the time I was just a small child. So if I wanted a baseball or BBs for my BB gun, I didn't go to my parents and say, hey, can you open your wallet and give me some money? I would take a little wagon around the neighborhood and collect, we call them Coke bottles in the South. We'd turn them in for deposits, and we had enough, we'd go, you know, buy a baseball. I caught chickens, which was the most horrible job in the world. You'd go to chicken houses at 10 o'clock at night, 8, 9-year-old kids. We were slave labor. There was no OSHA back in those days because they never would have allowed this. And we'd catch chickens all night long till 6 in the morning, and we'd stuff them in these wooden crates, and off to KFC they would go. It was a horrible job, smelly, nasty.
Oh, I've been in one of those.
Oh, they're just, but here's what it did for me. As a kid, I'd come out of those chicken houses and I'd say, what do I have to do so I don't do this for the rest of my life? Well, you got to work hard, get a good education, and treat people right. So that put me on my path to the rest of my life, and I thank God for having had such a hideous job early on because it motivated me.
So you went to college then?
I did. Went to Ouachita Baptist University, private Christian college in Arkansas. Wonderful school, huge impact on me. It was, a delightful atmosphere. Academically, very challenging, but spiritually was also nurturing. And that was, for me, the perfect place to be.
When did you accept Jesus?
On my 10th birthday, I went to Vacation Bible School at a little missionary Baptist church in Hope. And I went because my sister had gone the day before. She came home and said, you ought to go to Bible school. I said, nah, Bible school's for sissies. She said, oh, they give you all the cookies you can eat and all the Kool-Aid you can drink, and they play baseball in the breaks. I said, well, that sounds good. So I went the next day. Of course, I found out they didn't think I could eat more than 2 cookies or have more than 1 cup of Kool-Aid. But that day, the pastor came in and talked to us about what it was to be saved. It was a word I'd never heard before. What is that? But whatever he described, I knew it hadn't happened to me. And so he said, I'm going to pray a prayer. If you'd like to pray the prayer, you can pray with me and lift your hand. Well, I wasn't going to lift my hand because I thought he'd call me out and embarrass me. But I prayed the prayer. And I was overwhelmed with the sense that God had just come into my life. I mean, I'm 10 years old. It's not like I had to confess drug addiction or something of that nature. It was just that as a 10-year-old kid, it was very clear to me that God was real and that he showed up in my life. And that was, best birthday gift I could have ever had.
Did you know that he was calling you into an amazing ministry?
No, I figured I'd just, squander my life away in Hope, Arkansas, and hopefully do something a little better than catching chickens at the time.
When did you know the call on your life?
Well, it was probably when I was 15. I started work at a radio station at the age of 14, which was the result of a broken finger at age 11, playing Little League baseball. The quick version of the story is I was playing baseball. I was a catcher. We were a horrible team, never won a game. And a kid hit a foul tip, and I did something catchers intuitively know they're not supposed to do. In addition to my mitt, I put my hand out here because I wanted to make sure I caught the ball. I misjudged it. The ball took this index finger and just bent it back toward my elbow. I mean, it just shattered it. And I held it up and I said, hey, coach, I think I broke my finger. I could have been an orthopedic surgeon with diagnostic skills like that. And of course, it ended my baseball season. They told me I could go to the press box and help work on the public address system and announce the batters. Okay, free Cokes, free popcorn doing that. Hope was such a small town that the local radio station broadcast all the Little League games. Now think about how boring that must have been, but they did it. The manager of the station came, and he didn't want to do it because the guy that normally did it got sick. He said, kid, would you like to call a few innings? I said, sure. They passed me the mic. Innings later, he said, you're not bad. When you're 14 and can get your license, come see me, I'll give you a job. And that was the beginning of that.
The beginning of the...
Yep.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about going from pastoring to politics and a whole lot more.
Okay.